Yeah, the goal of this meeting is just to introduce this PNS in processing in memory, or PIM. The whole title of the course, or the PNS, is exploring the processing in memory paradigm for future computing systems, as you already know. And as I said, the goal of this meeting today is to introduce the course, give you a little bit of an idea of what are the goals and the key takeaways of this PNS, and also introduce ourselves and also get to know to you. So as you may already know, my name is Juan Gómez Luna, and I'm a senior researcher at Professor Mutlu's Safari Research Group. Yeah, we will talk about Professor Mutlu, his experience, and me, the rest of the advisors, and the Safari group later. Yeah. So this is what you wrote, what you read in the how is it? So in the course catalog, right? When you decided to join this course, this is a PNS, and here you have the whole description. And in the end, the whole objective that is explained here, it's already telling you what this is about, right? So if you look at these, there are some important words, keywords here that we should focus on. So for example, the first thing is data movement between the memory units and the compute units. Why is that? So if you guys are familiar with how a computer is built and how it is designed, current computers are follow the von Neumann model, right? Back in the beginning of the 20th century, John von Neumann, who actually studied at ETH, proposed this model where you have memory on one side, compute units on another side, and in the middle you have some sort of channel or bus that helps you access data from the compute, so access data from the memory to the compute units, back and forth, right? And the problem with this is that this data movement takes a lot of time, a lot of execution cycles, and also a lot of energy. According to a study of our group, it's up to 62% of the total system energy just by moving data from here to there and from there to here. So this is what we call the data movement bottleneck, because in the end is what it's burdening the energy consumption and the performance of current computing systems. And this is not something that happens on certain type of workloads or you know, the very rare cases. It's actually completely widespread, like and most of important workloads these days, like machine learning, especially for inference, but also computational biology, graph processing, databases, video analytics, real-time data analytics, and so on, suffer from the data movement bottleneck. So what we can do here? So what we can do is to propose a paradigm shift. This is not something new. This is something that has been around for several decades. And actually, we know that the first research papers that were published on this idea of processing in memory are from the late 60s or the beginning of the 70s. But there were like a lot of technology issues, technology limitations that prevented vendors from actually building these kind of designs, right? And these designs are what we call processing in memory, right? Which essentially consists of placing the compute capability closer to where the data resides. Where is the data? It's in memory or is also in the storage. So the main idea here is to put some sort of compute capability. And when I'm saying compute capability, that doesn't necessarily mean a CPU. We may be talking about different processor, maybe kind of GPU thing, maybe an FPGA, or maybe simply some specialized accelerators that are good at executing very specific functions. We are actually going to see an example of that in these slides. Whenever you have any questions, guys, please feel free to interrupt me. There is no problem with that. So if anything is not clear, let's try to clarify everything from the beginning. So this is actually like a very, how to say, illustrative slide that shows, this is from Bill Daly, famous professor and scientist that works for NVIDIA. And this is a talk in High Peak, a conference called High Peak in 2015. And here he showed something which is really interesting and really demonstrating what I was saying in the previous slide, is how much energy do you need to access data from DRAM, and how much energy you need to compute that data when you have it in the processor, right? So you can compare these two numbers, right? We are talking about around 3 orders of magnitude. Accessing 64 bytes from DRAM require 16 nanojoules, while operating on a 64-bit double precision element, what is a double when you write your code, what you define as a double, takes around 20 picojoules. And this is almost 3 orders of magnitude. Maybe this is maybe a little bit exaggerated, but at least something between 2 orders or 3 orders of magnitude, much more energy consumption in the DRAM access than the actual computation, which in the end is the productive thing, right? Because it's what we want to do. We want to compute multiplications, additions, and so on. And ideally, the access to data should be very lightweight. That would be the ideal, right? Zero cost. But unfortunately, it's let's say the other way around. Okay, so let's quickly review what are the goals of this course, what are the contents, what are the key takeaways here. Very first thing, and actually that's what we are already doing right now, is introducing the data movement bottleneck, which represents the major threat of high performance and energy efficiency of current computing systems. So next thing is this processing in memory idea or paradigm going to be fantastic for every type of workload, for every application? Well, it's going to be really useful for many of them, but not for all of them. So one important thing here is to understand what are the characteristics of a workload that make it suitable for processing in memory. So that's something that we really need to learn and understand. And that's something that you will have to keep in mind when you are doing your own project. You will review traditional approaches to alleviating data movement. So one thing that we are going to keep in mind is how are we dealing with this data movement bottleneck in current computing systems. And if you're familiar with the architecture of a CPU, so you know that, for example, CPUs have different levels of cache. The main idea of having a cache is like having a small fridge in your room, right? Instead of having to go to the kitchen, which is a large fridge, and you have a lot of things there, but you don't need all those things, all those food and beverages all the time. You take your favorite ones, your favorite drinks, for example, and you put them in a small fridge in your room, right? So this is what we essentially do with caches. However, the problem is that most of the workloads these days don't always like the same beverage of the same sandwich. They want to try very different beverages and very different types of food all the time. So you need to go to the fridge in the kitchen all the time, and this is what makes the memory access so costly in terms of energy and execution cycles. So that's why we need to get familiar with these new research proposals, these processing in memory solutions. And the next thing is that you will work hands-on. So in the end, that's the goal here. This is a PNS, and that's the main goal here is to be able to do to develop a project by yourself. And there are many different things that we can do. This is not something, the specific projects that we are going to propose to you is not the topic of today's meeting. This is something that we will talk about next Monday, and we will present all these different proposals that we have for you. So some examples here: analyzing workloads. For example, if you want to be able to identify when a particular workload or application or kernel is suitable for processing in memory, you need to analyze its characteristics and extract those metrics and characteristics that are key to identify this processing in memory suitability. You are going to be able to program real PIM architectures, even though you may think, and this is actually like research, an active field of research where many different proposals are coming out. There are already some processing in memory architectures, real ones, and we actually have access to one of them. So this is one of the possible projects that you can develop yourself. And also you can propose new processing in memory architectures or hardware improvements for existing processing in memory solutions. And in the end, if you go in this direction, what you would need to do is create your own designs, and these designs need to be simulated. And the way that we do is by using some let's say, widely used simulators in the computer architecture community. Some of them are from different groups, others are from our group, and some of them are maybe original simulators that we have tuned to be able to evaluate processing in memory proposals. So these are just some examples of the hands-on work that you will carry out. And yeah, I was just talking about the real world processing in memory architectures. And actually, as I said, there are already some. This is the first one, as far as we know, the first commercially available processing in memory architecture. And if you look at this picture, you will see that this is very similar to a conventional DRAM DIMM. You have this PCB, and on top of it, you can see several chips here. And actually the number of chips in a similar way as conventional DRAM, it's like 8 chips or 16 chips. Here in the figure at the bottom, you can see several of these DIMMs. In this particular case, you see 8 chips on the DIMM, and they are connected to the to the CPU through the conventional DDR data bus. So how are these processing in memory systems designed? Essentially, what we have is in each of these chips, we have different slices, each of them consisting of a DRAM bank that can be accessed by the CPU in a conventional manner, but also can be accessed by a small processor or several small processors that you have inside the each of these DRAM chips. In particular, in this architecture, there are 8 of these small processors. They are like a very small CPUs. Each of them has access to its own bank and can perform many different operations. It's like general purpose processor. It obviously has some limitations, but that's where the interesting part is, right? Being able to identify when a workload can benefit from this architecture, or it's better to execute the computation on the CPU side. This is, by the way, a system designed by a French company, a startup called PIM, and yeah, they are, I think, doing a very nice job collaborating with some important companies and universities these days, and we believe that this is quite a promising trend. We are actually working with this system already. But it's not only a company like this, PIM. It's also a big company like Samsung, for example. This is the news from February 17, so less than a month ago, 3 weeks ago or so, where they announced their new processing in memory architecture specialized on AI and machine learning applications. It's a different design. Why is that? Because instead of using conventional DDR4 memory, they use HBM memory. You might have heard of the HBM memory. It's in some of the, for example, NVIDIA GPUs, it's available since 2016 or so. It's a 3D stacked memory. As you can see, instead of being a two-dimensional design here, what we have is multiple layers of DRAM memory. And what Samsung essentially proposes is to change a little bit the design in some of these layers, in particular in this first prototype or this first compute capable HBM memory. They have 4 layers with some sort of processing elements. I wouldn't call them processors. I wouldn't call them CPUs, as I can call the UPIM processors, because these are not so general purpose. Here, in particular, we can only operate on 16-bit floating point operands, and the operations that we can perform are essentially addition and multiplication, or multiply, accumulate, and or multiply, add, which essentially is the same as a multiplication and an addition in a single operation, in a single cycle. Here you can see a little bit more about this design. What they did, well, this is like one of the layers of the HBM memory seen from above, right? So as you can see, this is divided into different pseudo channels, and inside each of them there are multiple banks. So you can see here bank 0, bank 1, bank 2, bank 3, and so on. What they did was replacing part of the cell array, part of the capacity of this DRAM layer with this PCU block. And each of these PCU blocks can access 2 banks. So for example, this one here can access bank 0 and bank 1. So yeah, this is, as I said, one interesting example of processing in memory, real world processing in memory architecture. This will be likely available in the next generation GPUs and maybe CPUs, FPGAs, and so on, and will be like probably like a very beneficial change for at least some applications, like, for example, machine learning and artificial intelligence inference. Any questions so far? Okay, I will continue. I see some. Okay, no questions. That's cool. Okay, key takeaways. This PNS is aimed at improving your knowledge in computer architecture and processing in memory. We are already learning about processing in memory. We are reviewing some common knowledge in computer architecture already. Even if you look at the at Moodle, I posted a message where there is a link to one of our courses, the Digital Design and Computer Architecture course, where you can brush up on many of the important concepts in computer architecture. If you are at this point, let's say, don't remember them or are unfamiliar with some of them. So yeah, I think this is one of the takeaways for you in this course. I see one question from Nam is, did Samsung release any paper or function in memory DRAM you mentioned? Yes, actually it's in the previous slide. Let me go back. This is the title of the paper here. Actually, this is a screenshot of the paper with the all the authors' names. It's a very short paper, by the way. It's kind of a one-page thing, so it's relatively quick to read, maybe not so easy to understand, but yeah, hopefully you will enjoy it. And if you have any questions, we will be glad to discuss them with you. Okay, so as I was saying, key takeaways of this PNS, you will expand your knowledge in computer architecture, and of course you will get exposed to processing in memory, to many different trends, and you will have the chance to develop your own project, and this way you will develop your technical skills, in particular in processing in memory by maybe programming a parallel processing in memory architecture like the UPMM architecture that I just shown to you, or working on a simulation of new architectural proposals. You will boost your critical thinking and analysis. And why is that? Essentially because what you're going to do with us is research. And whenever you have to do research, you have to be, you need to have a critical thinking. You need to be very careful with whatever you develop, whatever results you analyze, and these will for sure be very fruitful for you. You are going to interact with us. We are a nice, a large group of researchers. For sure, we will help you all the time. We are planning to have weekly meetings with you, and even more if it's necessary, and you will get a lot of help from us. In some way, we are considering you during this semester part of our research group, and you will be, in fact, involved in actual projects of our research projects. And you will be familiar with all these research directions, as I was saying. And finally, you will have to perform a presentation of your own project. So another thing that you will improve on is on your presentation skills for technical presentations. Okay, so key goal of this PNS is to learn how to overcome the data movement bottleneck by programming, benchmarking, exploring different designs of the PIM computing paradigm. I think that this should be clear at this point, but just in case, I want to make sure that the key goal is clear for you. Prerequisites of the course, I assume that you all fulfill the prerequisites of the course. Why is that? Because you enroll. So we expect that you have some knowledge on digital design and computer architecture because you have taken the course with Professor Mutlu or have taken an equivalent course. We also hope that you are familiar with C and C++ programming because that's definitely needed, either if you want to program a PIM architecture or you want to develop your own architectural proposals and simulate them will be necessary for sure. If you have also some experience on FPE implementation or GPU programming, that's very welcome, but not strictly necessary, but can be useful for sure. And what we expect from you as well is that you are a motivated student. You really want to learn a lot of things and excited about the PNS that you're doing, because we are going to put the best of us on helping you to develop your project, and we expect the same from you. Okay, just to introduce ourselves, I want to start with Professor Mutlu, who is the leader of our group. He was a professor at Carnegie Mellon University until 2015. When he joined ETH, he did his PhD in the UT Austin and has worked in different big companies like Google, VMware, Microsoft Research, etc. Here you can see his website and also his email address in case you want to contact him at some point. And he's an expert in research and teaching in all these many things, especially here we focus on computer architecture, memory systems, and processing in memory systems. But as you can see, he also works on hardware security, bioinformatics, storage systems, etc. So it's all the different research topics that we handle in our group, which is a very, very large group, as you will see in a couple of slides. And these are the pictures of us. The lead supervisor is me. I joined Professor Mutlu's group in 2017, and I've been a senior researcher with him since then. There are also 4 amazing researchers like Dr. Mao, and then PhD students like Geraldo, Konstantinos, and Nika. I don't know if they all are here in the meeting. Let me quickly check. Is there any other question? Okay. Yeah, Konstantinos is here, Nika, and Geraldo. And actually Aditya, who is also one of our group members and someone who can potentially collaborate with you as well.
Hayu is here too.
Yeah, do you guys want to introduce yourself very quickly? Hayu?
Yeah, I'm Hayu, and I majored in the non-volatile memory-based processing memory system. Yeah, and machine learning.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Hayu. Geraldo.
Hello, I'm Geraldo. I am a PhD student, a third-year PhD student here at Honors Group, and I work mostly on processing memory, near data processing, DRAM computing, and I think that's all.
Konstantinos, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. So I'm Konstantinos. I'm a second-year PhD student, and my work focuses mostly on like hardware, software co-design, virtual memory, visualized environments. But I'm having some ideas on this topic also, so I will be glad to present in the next meeting, I think.
That's good. Thank you very much, Konstantinos. And Nika, you want to say hello?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Nika. I'm finishing my first year of PhD. I work on emerging technologies and near storage solutions for bioinformatic applications.
Okay, thank you very much all. Yeah, you will know more about the research that we do when we present the projects that each of one is proposing. We continue. Okay, so this is the, well, a picture of a larger group. Of course, not everyone is here. As you can see, there are more than 38 researchers in the group. This here is Professor Mutlu. Yeah, as I said, it's a very large group, and as I said as well, in some way we will consider you part of the group during this semester, and we hope that this PNS will be very beneficial and very fruitful for your learning and for your future career as well. And very, very quickly, just to introduce a little bit more about the research areas in the group. As I said before, we do research in computer architecture, hardware, software co-design, bioinformatics. Those are like 3 main trends, but it's they are not the only things that we work on. We essentially work on the whole stack and all different types of devices like CPUs, GPUs, FPGAs, different types of memories like DRAM, new memory technologies like volatile and persistent memories, storage, and many, many more things as well. So now I would like you introduce yourself. I'm going to stop recording. Okay, so course requirements and expectations. Attendance is required for all meetings. That should be clear. You are already in the first meeting, so that's good. We actually, so, you know, like these kind of meetings with everyone, we probably won't have more than this one and the meeting next week. After that, you will have meetings with your supervisors after you choose what are your favorite projects, and we assign them to you. That's important for us to understand what's your background, because this way we can make sure that you are assigned a project that really fits you well. So I believe that we will only have these 2 meetings, as I said. Then you will have many individual meetings with your supervisors, and finally we will have a presentation to the whole group, and this way you will present what you developed during this semester. We expect that you study the learning, so the learning materials that we are providing. I already sent you an email with all the different materials. I think that they also have in the next slide. Yeah, some of the, I believe that all these readings are, I mean, for sure, interesting, but also relatively accessible to everyone. So I hope that you won't have too much trouble to understand what these different works are about. But anyway, as I said, if you have any questions, you can ping us in Moodle or directly in our email. Each of you will carry out your own hands-on project, as we have already talked about, and we expect that you also participate. So participating means that you are proactive, in the sense that you don't only read the papers and ask questions about whatever you need to understand, but also are proactive when you are developing your project. Don't just wait for us to tell you, okay, you this week are going to do this, and next week we'll do that. Please try to be proactive, because this way the learning experience is going to be much more complete. For sure, we will help you. Don't no problem with that. Don't hesitate to contact us whenever you have questions, and this way everything will go smooth and work better. Interesting thing, as I said, what you're going to do is research. What we're going to do is helping us in our own research, and maybe at some point you may even develop your own ideas. So one potential benefit of doing this is that you may even be able to get your work published in a major conference, in a journal, or as part of a bigger paper that we may be working on. And as I said, this is not just like mock projects that we give you for, you know, enjoying for some time and having fun. This is research, and we are very serious and very motivated about our research. So we expect the same from you. Information about the course website and about Moodle, I have both here. The course website, I'm pretty sure that you have already seen it. It's a course description, prerequisites. Here you have our contact information, and then the materials. I will upload the slides that I'm using today. I will upload them here, and then you also have some materials here. They are not exactly the same ones that some of them may be the same ones, but not all of them are the same ones that I send you over email. I essentially wanted to keep the ones that were here in the website, because this way you can even find more interesting papers or more interesting resources that you can see here. And also another thing that you have is the this homework 0. The deadline to submit this is on this Friday. So it's just to know a little bit more about you. You can paste the photo here if you want, or not. Most important thing is that you answer these questions, because this will also help us to know more about you and understand better what's your background to give you assign you an appropriate project. And then here we have the Moodle page. There is not much, only this assignment for you to submit the homework 0 with your own information, a link to the website. Then we have the Q&A forum. You can post a question here. I guess we will receive an email, and this way we can answer you quickly. I typically want to answer questions in 24 hours or 48 hours, but also don't hesitate to answer questions that another student may ask, because this way we can enable some sort of discussion that I think that can be quite productive as well. And here in the announcements page, first thing you can see here is the same thing that I sent you over email. Then an announcement about the homework 0 that I posted last week, and finally a link to the schedule, to the content, so to the website of Digital Design and Computer Architecture, the course that Professor Mutlu teaches in the second semester of computer science. And here you have access to the whole schedule. You can check some of the interesting lectures. I mean, there are like 26 or 25 or 26 lectures. You don't need to watch them all, but if you want to, you know, recap of some of the important concepts and topics that are important in this PNS, I'm recommending you to take a look at some of the lectures here. Okay, any question about this? Okay, yeah, as I said, I will give you access right after this meeting. And these are the materials that you receive over email. I don't know if, I guess you didn't have time to read and watch everything until now, but yeah, you still have one more week before we assign you a project. I mean, actually in 1 week, we will present the different projects, and a few days later, we will assign you the project, and we can start, you know, having like our individual meetings and start working on the project. In the meantime, I think that all of these materials are really, really useful. In some cases, the contents will be repeated. That shouldn't be a problem, because this way you will have more chances to understand everything well and to think about what you're reading. It doesn't. You don't really need to go one by one in the order that we have provided the different materials to you. This is a very comprehensive book chapter. I believe it's around 30 pages or so, and it's a whole overview of a lot of research that has been done in our group and also research from other groups as well. It's, I believe, very interesting reading. But if you want to approach in a softer way, let's say, you may want to start with this presentation here, this talk from Professor Mutlu as a keynote that he gave in ICCD conference in 2019, and also the lectures that he gave in the computer architecture course. This in particular, computation in memory and near data processing. And I finally added this real processing in DRAM with UPMEM, which is a short lecture that I gave to introduce the UPM architecture. So yeah, all of these are, I believe, very interesting and useful materials for you to have the, you know, the necessary background on processing in memory before you start working on your own project. Any question about the materials? Okay. Okay, what will we do in the second meeting next Monday? We will announce the projects. We will give you a description about them. Then we will have kind of a poll in Moodle where you will select the projects that you are most interested in, and then based on that, we will assign the project to you, and then you will start having meetings with your supervisor. I think that something reasonable is to have 1 or 2 meetings each week, depending on the difficulties that you find, or how much help you need, or how much progress you're making. Hopefully you will make a lot of progress. Yeah, and these meetings should be hopefully very productive as well. If you find some difficulties that you cannot solve by yourself, the best thing that you can do is contacting your supervisors, and this way we can help you faster, and you will solve the issue faster as well. And also study the learning materials. So the materials in the previous slide, please take a look at all of them before, I mean, for sure the required ones, but also the recommended ones before our next meeting, because this way you're going to be able to have a more complete understanding of the topic. And then meetings after that, as I said, individual meetings with your mentor or mentors. We may eventually have provide you with more talks, like for example, I don't know, maybe related to the research that you're doing. We may provide you with some presentation of the presentations that we deliver in a conference, for example. You can watch the recordings and this way understand a little bit better about a specific topic. Maybe also not only from our group, but also other relevant works that other good groups are doing all around the world. And finally, as I said, we will have the presentation of your own work, but we will have to decide on the date to do this based on your availability or availability as well at the end of the semester. Maybe sometime in June or July can probably be a good date for everyone to meet and for you to present your work, get feedback not only from us, but also maybe from other people in our group. And yeah, and this way you will complete the whole experience in this PNS. And I think that this is all. The rest of the presentation is an introduction to processing in memory, but I don't think that it makes sense for me to go over these slides. You can use them for your reference for sure. I mean, this essentially summarizes some of the things that we have introduced today, like the motivation for processing in memory with the data movement bottleneck, data access, a major bottleneck, energy consumption, data movement, energy dominates compute, things that we have talked about already in this meeting. Here, for example, you see some example applications that can benefit from processing in memory. This slide, you already know it, and some more motivation results, and then you will see some more slides about different processing in memory proposals. We distinguish between processing, so we call the whole thing processing in memory, but we distinguish between processing near memory and processing using memory. These are two different approaches. They are all introduced in the lectures that we have already provided to you, and those readings. Whenever you have a question about that, please feel free to use the Moodle Q&A forum, and we can solve these questions quickly. Even if you want to ask the questions in the next meeting as well, that's also something that we could do, even though the focus of the goal of the meeting is to present the projects, but we can also answer some questions you may have over this week. And I think that this is essentially all from my side. I don't know, guys, if you, Geraldo, Konstantinos, Nika, Hayu, do you want to add anything? Am I missing anything?
I think that's all, Juan, until next week when you present the project.
Okay, thank you very much, Geraldo.